Hello and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 298 at scavengerlife.com.
So this is Saturday, and it's a good example of like the life we've created. So we got up, you went to go pack.
Yes.
I went to go meet our renters.
Yes.
Who are renting our farmhouse for its weekend.
Yep.
And, and now it's here. It's, a noonish. We've had lunch, and this is our life.
I like it.
Yeah.
We both worked this morning,
right.
Basically.
Yep. It's nice. But I was thinking, someone was mentioning on the forum, and I forgot who it was, but they said something I always think is interesting. So people... It's like us. It's frugal. We don't like to buy a lot of stuff.
Right.
We don't like to collect or hoard or any of this. So, we like minimal.
Right.
We actually like to get rid of stuff.
Yeah.
That makes me feel good.
Right.
But yet, we're in this weird business on eBay where we're purposely seeking out and buying collectible items for the people that like to collect.
Right.
It's kind of like in the forest. It's like this weird ecology, where...
Well, it's like, at the heart of it, too, it's selling stuff to people who want to buy stuff, and we're like, we don't want to buy anything. So it is weird.
And, our house, like, I'm looking at them right now, we have shelves in our house full of, like, collectible kind of stuff.
Glassware.
That isn't ours.
Right.
I don't want it here.
Right.
I want it out of the house, but, I'm waiting for the person to come and buy it.
Right, exactly.
But, so it also reminds me of a story I wanted to tell is last week that I didn't have a chance to. So we've been renovating this other house, and one thing we like to do is get nice old flooring.
Yes.
And I went down to North Carolina again. It seems like I always go down there because they have all this.
Everybody has this wood down there.
Because I think just they have all those old barns they're tearing down, and
Yeah.
it hasn't really been picked over yet. So this guy bought 10 acres of land, and it had a huge, I don't know if it's a barn or a chicken house, but this huge structure, and it was full of stuff. Now, when I went there, it wasn't that full of stuff, but he said when he bought it a year ago, it was jam-packed. I guess he bought it from a hoarder. And he went on Craigslist, and he wrote down, come and buy stuff. Mm-hmm. And he was telling me the story of a stream of different kinds of, basically, scavengers who were coming to pick over the stuff. He said there were people who, would try and find stoves. Like, they wanted to find old stoves.
Old stoves, yeah.
He said people would come and buy clothes because this guy had boxes of clothes everywhere.
You found some clothes, right? You found a pair of shoes or something?
Yeah, a pair of shoes. Yeah. He was like, just take whatever you want. He said that there were people specifically coming to find furniture, to either to restore or something.
Yeah.
He said there were a lot of people coming to find like old farm equipment pieces, like it's little John Deere and little things. Cars, because there were some cars on there.
Oh my gosh.
And then there were guys, it's like me, I was coming there to get wood.
Right.
Because not only was the building itself made out of wood that he was pulling apart, but he had stacks of wood that the guy already had.
Right.
And again, all those people, including me who came, were scavengers trying to find this stuff. And I bet at least half of those people, like me, well, I wasn't going to sell this, but I bet a lot of them were there to sell.
To sell, yeah.
And it really is interesting what we do.
Well, what's fascinating is I actually remember his Craigslist ad.
Oh yeah,
from last year. He had pictures from a drone. Do you remember that?
No.
It was like these really high up pictures of all this wood in this huge barn structure where he's like, this is just filled with stuff.
Right.
I think we wrote to him at that point and we were like, we don't know what he has. Huh. And we didn't really need it yet. Right. But I remember that listing because we were searching for, we're always kind of searching for wood. So yeah, it's kind of amazing.
So, and I wonder if anyone hearing this is a scavenger but also a collector, is that possible? Like, can you be someone that's always searching and scavenging and sell but also be a collector? Because I feel like in order to do this business,
you have to let go of stuff.
You have to want to let go of stuff.
Well, the thing is that we love about this business, we've talked about this before, is it allows us to gather the cool, vintage, one-of-a-kind, antique, unique things, and we don't have to keep them. That's what I love, like going to the thrift store and being like, we can buy all this stuff and then we can get rid of it. Right. It's not like we're throwing it away. We're making money on it.
Or we can just skim off the stuff that we can't sell. Like, it's most of the clothes we have little stains or holes in it.
Yeah, we just grab the stuff.
We're like, I'll wear it.
Yeah, exactly. And or housewares or something. Like, I just pulled out a nice stainless steel mixing bowl that was damaged. And Jay was like, let's just use that ourselves. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great idea.
We have a real quandary right now. We said it's weekend. We went over to this couple's house in DC it's moving, and they basically either gave us a bunch of stuff that they didn't want to take to Goodwill, or they were selling us stuff for really cheap. And one of the things we had talked about it was this $500
espresso maker.
Like, it's on the counter. It's kind of huge. It's kind of like a big box.
Yeah.
But it's great, Oh
man.
You just put beans in, push a button, and
it grinds it fresh, then makes you an espresso or an Americano.
Yeah. So we were like, well, let's buy it. We'll put it in one of our rentals or we'll sell it. But this might be one of the things
we are just like every coffee is like the best coffee you've ever had. I mean, it's like going to Starbucks in your own house.
It's nice.
It cost us $100.
But which is great. And I remember it's when I said I'll give you $100 for it. You were like, what? $100? I'm like, Ryan, this thing is like super nice.
I think it was hard for me because when I hadn't really looked at it, and when I think of espresso machines, I think of those ones that we see in Europe, where you have to grind the beans separately over here. You have to get this cup thing, this espresso little cup thing, and then you have to do. And whenever we've been in Europe and people have those, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I've messed up the coffee every time, but it's not like this. This thing's fully automated. You're just press button,
and it's great. It's no pods that have to get thrown away.
It's awesome.
But anyway, I mean, although this is a good example of a useful item.
Right, that we want to keep.
And I'm sure a lot of people do this as well, where their house is full of really awesome stuff.
Right.
That's just gently been used, like a good set of knives or a nice TV or
glassware or just plates and stuff. Yeah, I mean, furniture.
Or, like Steve, who does it's sold its video every Wednesday. He just bought a house.
Yes.
And I think he bought it, right?
Yeah, he bought it. Yeah.
And he's shown us pictures where he's getting all this mid-century
retro.
It's really awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, for just pennies on the dollar,
for nothing,
compared to if you were to try and buy brand new furniture at West Elm or whatever.
Well, what's fun about it is it makes me feel less guilty about having things like that, because I'm like, it like when we first made the coffee, when we got the coffee maker, I literally was like, I feel like a rich person, but I don't have to be, because I can just get it secondhand and it's great, I
mean, that's it's one of those things. Anyone that's hearing this who isn't in America, the U.S., sorry,
yes.
Maybe it's like this in Europe a little bit, but just when you're in this really wealthy, industrialized nation, it's just incredible.
People just give stuff away.
It's just incredible the abundance,
Well, the crazy thing too is we bought the coffee maker, we bought this beautiful bookshelf that we're going to use at the river house, and they gave us 6 or 7 boxes just of glassware and housewares and towels.
It's presents that people had given
that they probably had never used
8 years ago, and they had just shoved in the corner.
For me, I'm looking through that stuff thinking, oh, this is the junk that people donate, whatever. Some of that stuff was worth a lot of money. My helper and I took pictures of it, and then I would look up the brand, and I'm like, whoa, this is the high-end stuff. So it was kind of a pleasant surprise.
Like somebody said on a YouTube, there's a comment over there where someone was just like, you know what? You're doing them a service because they don't want to go to Goodwill.
You're basically, just carting everything away.
It's just like anyone that does estate sale clean outs or anything, it's like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the kind of, I guess there's the practical stuff that we all find and sell and sometimes keep. But just specifically it's something that I never thought that we would get into a market for, but we've really gone into like collectibles and like vintage stuff. I mean, things that have not like kind of an intrinsic value or practical added value. It's something that people love because it's old and because it sits on their shelf and because it's part of a set of something else.
Yeah.
And I think that stuff is so weird to buy and sell,
Well, I mean, for us it's weird, but just, you know what? That's my thing is I'm like, I'll sell it to somebody else.
Right.
I mean, if they want to buy it, that's fine.
Right. And just to end on this, and I was thinking it's so interesting how, we're currently these scavengers. We find this stuff, we sell it to, present day collectors. Though someone spends their whole life and they have a shelf full of like a set of something. It's like they've achieved their goal.
Yeah, like I collected everything.
Then they die.
And
then that stuff either gets donated or sold
or auctioned off.
And then there'll be a new set of scavengers who might not even be born yet, Ryan. A little young scavenger
now,
who will then find that stuff again.
Again, I know.
And then sell it to another collector that might not even be born yet, who will then put it all back together.
I know.
It's such a weird...
Yeah, it's a weird cycle.
That's it. Okay, so I've made my point. There you go. Okay, so let's talk about eBay.
Yes.
It was a pretty good week, not as strong as has been lately. And I think, and I just want to make its mention of this, I think that's why we all start complaining about things being slow, because you start off a year like gangbusters.
Right. January and February are good.
You come out of holiday and people are still buying, and like, I mean, at least to us, our January was like our best month we've had in a long time.
So crazy.
February's been good
Great,
too.
Yeah.
And then it'll start slowing down, and then we keep comparing all these months, June, July, to January.
Right.
Why can't it be like January? Right. And it just can't. But it was still a good week. We did want to mention some things that we talked about a week ago.
The Gallery Plus problem. Now, several people were having this issue where, number one, the Gallery Plus checkbox was automatically checked during your listings, but even if you unchecked it, it still charged you the fee.
Right.
So I called a rep and they acknowledged the problem, and then it was gone. And then I called another rep a couple of days later, and I had to go one by one and get them to give me a credit on my...
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was so crazy because I was like, well, which ones have the gallery fee? She's like, oh, I don't know.
Wow.
And so I had to like basically guess on the last few that I had listed. It was only 10 listings. But I had to read out every item number for those last 10 listings.
You're dedicated.
And have her give me a credit.
All right.
Like I just sat there for like 45 minutes.
We saved $1.
We saved $10. No, but the issue is...
Oh, yeah, $10 because it's $1 for the...
And some of them are now $2. Wow. So the other issue is on your invoice, if it hasn't sold in a month, it's going to charge you again. It's going to charge you every month that $10,
right.
And it just keeps going and going until the thing's sold.
So I just saw that someone on the forum says it's fixed.
It is fixed.
That they can go back.
Yes.
Because that's a weird thing. And, I said it last week, like, I don't even know what Gallery Plus is. Like,
right.
I don't, they aren't very clear as to what you're actually getting.
Right.
So someone linked to an eBay page that supposedly explained what Gallery Plus was. And, it was eBay giving you, like, a description of it. I still didn't understand it. And it's only on certain categories.
It's so, I can't even, I don't even understand.
Yeah, I just wish that they would get rid of it. Or if it's a cool feature, I don't know what it is, they just incorporate it into their
it should be free.
System,
Like, if it's something that's useful to preview a listing or to see photos bigger, that's part of the platform.
And there were other people who said that they didn't have a problem at all, so I don't know if it was only affecting certain items, if it was like...
Only affecting anchor stores, or who knows?
Just affecting certain browsers. Anyway,
yeah, it was really weird.
It's one of those things, it got fixed.
Yeah.
The other thing we mentioned last week was eBay shipping supplies how if you have a subscription, if you pay for a store subscription every 3 months, every quarter, you get a coupon.
Yes.
And people were having problems. They would buy the free stuff, or they thought it was free, and then they would get charged.
Well, and they would put their coupon in, so it looked like it was free.
So,
yes,
we've had several people tell us.
Okay, it was Jesse that said, I'm listening to the podcast from Monday. I heard a caller mention the coupon and the full charge to their PayPal account. I also noticed this when going into GoDaddy bookkeeping last month, and I had not noticed this before. So I called eBay, and they walked me through my PayPal transaction and showed me a drop-down arrow in the transaction line. Once I punched the arrow, the transaction had been broken down more explicitly, showing that eBay had fulfilled the $50 coupon. This is most likely a change in an accounting method for them. I'm sure you can see this if you go to your PayPal as well. Just look for the arrow in the shipping purchase transaction line. So it seems like you are not getting charged. It's just not fully showing you that coupon like zeroing out, which is really weird.
I mean, when you buy our free supplies or order them,
the thing is, I'm not. So this is my thing. I've always had it zero out or say you owe $3 like with the coupon, and then I pay, and it's like it just always says like you paid $3. I don't know. I guess I never saw it as an issue, but then when people said there was an issue, I haven't gone back and looked.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
I have to just go back and look at my PayPal. I just always thought it just was like, you paid $0 or you paid $3 extra, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it should just be abundantly clear.
Oh, it should be so clear, yeah.
Where
they should make it clear. Yeah, they should make it clear on all fronts, on PayPal, on eBay, everywhere.
You know, I've really lately been super invigorated by eBay, and it is all because we now have a helper.
Yep.
It really... Yep. This has happened multiple times where we drag our feet, or we're just like, we're not changing, or we don't think this is a good idea. And one of those things was hiring
someone. It took us a long time.
Because, we wanted to save money. We want, we can do the work ourselves.
Sure. It's expensive to hire someone.
Seems complicated. And we finally took the plunge, and it's really worked out.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe we couldn't have done it sooner, because maybe we couldn't have found someone that we enjoy as much as the person who's helping us now.
Right.
But it really is nice. I mean, she is like pumping out the products in our pipeline,
Yeah, I mean, like, we will we have stuff that's like death piles, like art death piles, but we'll buy a bunch of stuff at a thrift store, and then she's gone through it, and I've listed it the next day.
Right.
That is never, ever happened.
Or we go to an auction,
right?
And the way we do it at auctions, I'm sure other people do too.
So
we bring home
lots.
A truckload of stuff.
Right.
Like it's strapped down.
Yeah.
And it's filling our room in our house.
Yeah.
That will be gone. It's within a week.
Right. I mean, it won't be sold, but it'll be listed. It's in the pipeline.
And
it's
stored away.
Ready to go.
Instead of like just becoming death piles.
Right.
So it's really nice.
Like I can see the rug in the room next door to us, which is like not been the case.
Yeah. And she only works 16 hours a week by her own choice, because she is a student.
Right. She has, yes.
She's just doing it as a part-time job. So it's really great.
It's amazing.
And I think what's interesting, we've had a couple emails from people who hear the podcast who say they've hired people as well. And I don't know if we've been an example, or if they've just been doing it anyway, and they just reached out and told us they've done it. But
it's just cool to hear other people are like, oh, yeah, I'm going to do that too.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a method of, I guess, putting an ad on Craigslist. I mean, we didn't do that, but I guess that's one way to do it. The other way is what we've heard some of these new people are doing. They're just reaching into their family.
Like word of mouth,
like a niece, or, someone youngish, or someone that just needs a part-time job.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool. I mean, it's been great for us. I mean, it is money. You're like, oh, it's, however much every day she works. But it's helped us so much, I think.
But it is nice to see. We have been selling stuff within the week that it gets put up.
Some stuff I sell overnight. I'm like, I listed that yesterday.
That I know definitely has already paid for the work that she's done, and then there's all these other items, to go.
Yeah.
So that being said, we've really been listing a lot. Like, our store is now up to...
This is just one store.
700 items. So we're almost at 6,000 items. And really, the big question is how big do we want to grow?
Well, it's all about storage. I mean,
because we have an anchor subscription on eBay, and you can list up to 10,000 items. So really, we could grow another 4,000 items without any extra cost to us. And the big question is, like, do we want to get that big?
Well, the issue too is, like, I mean, stuff sells every day. So, as you're putting stuff in the store, I mean, you're selling stuff too, and it's not equal. We're putting more stuff in the store than we're selling. But...
Well, like, it's this week we listed 120 items, and we sold 50 items.
Yeah.
So
okay, so it's about half.
So it's so it's growing incrementally.
Right.
But, I guess that's its question, and we've talked about it before, so I'm not going to go deep into it. But storage for us is becoming an issue, and that's a real question we have to answer for ourselves.
Yes.
Do we want to get bigger and so invest in more storage?
Yeah.
Or do we want to, I don't know,
what else do we
shrink a little bit? And well, the idea is, it's that kind of like where we're at that fork in the road. We use the same model we have, get big, be able to store all that stuff, or do we want to shrink and just focus on
higher end stuff? Well, I do want to focus on higher end stuff, but
take the elevator and go higher and do a mix of both.
Well, I think right now, though, because we're doing a renovation, I mean, we're like, I'm taking offers on things. I'm just like, I don't care. Yes, sell everything, sell everything, sell. Like,
I've got some
quantity.
I have some carpenters to pay. Like, yes, I'll take it. No,
seriously. I mean, that's exactly how, like, geez, look at my sales yesterday. Someone was like, would you take $7 for this? Yes, I would take $7. Will you take $9 for this other thing? Yes. Get it out of my storage. It's an Adidas track jacket from, 2005. Yes, I'll take it. But I do like the higher end items because I feel like they sell for more.
Right, but I just don't have any confidence in myself yet that we could, make enough its money just buying and selling high-end stuff. Like, we at that last auction, we spent $400 on rugs.
Right.
And we haven't sold one of those rugs.
Right.
It could take 6 months before that sells.
Yeah, that's true. I know.
So it's like a mix of, if you want to buy and sell high-end items, but they have to sell relatively quickly, or else you're sitting on a lot of cash.
You got to make competitive prices, and I'm really bad at that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look.
I'm like, I want high prices.
Look, these are all luxury problems, I mean, this is just, I mean, I'm hoping this is the same kind of thinking that other people have. It's once you start hitting, 1,000 items.
Right, you're just like, okay, I have
we've created a process.
Right.
And it's working.
Yeah, it's working.
But the process is pushing us towards getting bigger.
Right.
And we just have to accept, like, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Like, it's... I always enjoy seeing people on a forum that have been here for a year plus.
Right.
And I remember when they came and they had like 100 items, and now they're up to 1,200. And they're just in their house.
It's like, just them
with like a basement or something.
Yeah.
And they're making money, and they're having to think like,
same thing.
Where's this going?
Like, am I getting bigger? Do I need to sell off my inventory?
Like, this is so not a hobby business.
Right,
anymore.
exactly. Like, this is real. Or when people are like, oh, I started at 100 with the hobby, and now it's my full-time job, and I quit my job.
Right.
And you're like, okay, that is real.
Okay, let's talk about the Scavenge of the Week.
Now, this Scavenge of the Week, there's a couple of them. They're two very similar, found at the exact same time. The first one is causing quite a stir amongst us, our helper, and some people that I texted photos of it to. And it's this painting of this totally, like, 80s looking dude with, like, total 80s glasses and, like, a mullet with this, like, what looks like to me like a purple and pink like silk shirt and like a 80s leather jacket. And you're like, this guy is nerdy and cool at the same time. And it is painted on a wooden cabinet door.
Right.
Like a kitchen cabinet door.
It's like total, what you would think of as like outsider art.
It's totally the most amazing. Right. I think might be one of the most amazing paintings we've found. Maybe the second or third most amazing.
That's incredible.
It's hilarious. It's weird. It's like
super contemporary. And
it's painted well.
Right.
That's the other part is you're like, somebody really took a lot of time to paint this, and it's on like this crappy cabinet.
And they weren't like, some schooled artists that would have, like a canvas. They just were painting on it,
anything they had. Yeah. And it's just like yesterday with me and my helper, like we could not stop talking about it. Okay. We were just laughing.
Let's put aside the wonderment. Let's talk business.
Business, yes.
Okay. So someone's like, I find, weird, cool art all the time. Signature. Yeah. Ryan, how do you go about pricing this and describing it?
Okay. This one is a real crazy one. For me, this kind of painting there's this place in Boston. It's in Dedham, Massachusetts. It's in Dedham. I grew up in Dedham until I was 5. And there's a community movie theater there. And in the basement, there's something called the Museum of Bad Art. And this reminds me of the very first piece they ever put in the Museum of Bad Art. You can look it up. Where it's like somebody was good at doing paintings, but the subject they choose was so weird. And there's no explanation, like you don't know the story behind it, and you're trying to make a story behind it. And to me, that's what makes it valuable, where someone's not like, oh, that's a cool painting. Someone's like, who was that? Who painted it? Right. Why did they paint it like this? Why did they paint it on a cabinet? Like there's just like so many things around it where you're like, I could just sit here all day and like think about this weird painting. So to me, that's worth money. Like, to me, someone who is interested in weird art like that would pay a good amount of money. So I haven't chosen a price yet.
But so, how do you imagine you're going to describe it? Like, did you say things like outsider art, bad art?
Outsider art, bad art, ugly, vintage, mullet, 80s.
Gotcha.
Stuff like that. And then, I think in the description itself, I'll probably say everything we just said. Like, this is so crazy and weird and great.
Kind of like that diary I had found at a similar kind of thrift store where it was like a little diary that a woman had kept.
It was like a journal,
throughout her life. Right. And there wasn't a whole lot in it, but she had been painting throughout her life, and she'd been painting in this journal. Yes. And, and each was dated. So incredible. You could see her early work to her older work, and it was like kind
portraits.
Kind of like psychedelic Christian portraits.
And they were from the 50s and 60s. This wasn't like some person now trying to be like hip and weird.
And then we eventually sold that for a couple $100 to like some artist in LA. But I mean, I guess does get sold, but it is interesting, when you have something like this, and going back to collectibles, something that, and I think that's why a lot of people stay away from it, because it doesn't have like a name brand, it doesn't have an artist,
it's not signed,
so it's hard to attract those kind of keywords. So you're looking for people who are specifically collectors, who are like, they're like keyword searching almost, like. Yeah, period.
And also, like, there are some, like, when you grabbed that artwork, I think you were like, is this the ugliest thing you've ever seen? Or you said, is this horrible? And I'm like, yes, it's amazing, Like, sometimes you find horrible art and you're like, oh, God, no. But sometimes you find crazy art and you're like, this is so amazing. Like, basically, Jay wants to keep this piece, but I think we should try and sell it, because I think it's really, really cool. So,
well, because we aren't collectors, really.
We're not collectors. Oh, we do have some art in our house, and we need art for the rental houses. I think this is over the edge for a rental house. It's cool.
A little too kooky.
It's a little bit too ugly. I think people would be like questioning our taste and why they paid X amount of dollars to stay here with this guy staring at them. So another piece of artwork that we found right like at the exact same moment was this piece of paper. It was this browned piece of paper, like with the edges like disintegrating, and it was this hand-drawn like bird with it looked like tattoo flash art. For anybody that knows like vintage tattoo flash art,
I don't know what flash art is.
Flash art is like back in the day when tattoos were like taboo. You would go into a tattoo shop and you'd like pick something off the wall. Oh, I want the swallow with the like that. To me looks just like tattoo flash art. It's like a bird with a ribbon that says stuff with like flowers and stars in the background. I'm like, that's classic. Like, you know, a guy in the Navy like got that. And it's from that era. It's from 1924. It's dated. It's drawn by some like, you know, middle school kid in 1924, and it's cool as hell.
And I think why we just talk about these two things as Scavenger of the Week is that for us, this is what's exciting.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you just found it out in the wild. It's not like you were bidding on it in an auction or like it was a specialty store.
But also like that piece of paper. It wasn't in a frame or anything. It was just
sitting on a shelf.
I mean, I cannot believe that it has survived since what, the 20s?
1924, yeah.
That it stayed in one piece all this time and this was a pretty junky thrift store. I can't believe it wasn't torn up
or ripped. Anyway. And I immediately stuck it in a book. It was like I grabbed a coloring book and I stuck it in the cover so it wouldn't get smushed.
And so we'll take a picture of both these things and we'll put it on it'll be the picture. It's for the blog. I mean, people are going to be like,
what?
That's it?
Are you talking about?
And the other thing is, and Omfug is always good about this, when you actually sell something is like this, it's such a good feeling knowing that someone else out there like approves of or agrees with the taste that we have. You know,
they're like, it's like everything we are feeling about this crazy mullet guy. Someone else is like, yes,
affirmation.
Yeah, exactly.
It's good. Okay, I'm gonna mention a little bit about Amazon FBA. Ryan can fall asleep real quick. So this past week was when Amazon kicked in the new long-term storage fees, so no longer will individual items be exempt from the long-range storage fees. Everything gets fees. We just chose to keep all of our stuff in. I lowered our prices, so stuff has been going fairly quickly. But we have a lot of like weird things in their old books, so it's not going that fast. I think we have about 600 items, and then I just chose to keep them all in there. We'll definitely make our money back, even with those long-range storage fees. I mean, I don't know if we'll make money, break even. At this point, I think our Amazon experiment's over with.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've mentioned that it's before. And, when we were in those thrift stores this past week, I was looking at some stuff, and like part of my instinct was to scan some of these items that I'd found. Just so let's see how much it is. And it's just not fun to me anymore, especially like a scanned. It's one thing, and like I can sell it for like $13.
Well, the profit's not there, so you're just like, it's not worth it at all.
It seems like it really does. It seems like it's a good business model for people that want to do wholesale or retail arbitrage or private label. I don't know. I'd love to hear from somebody. Me, I would. Probably not you, but I would. I mean, does anyone still think it's fun to scavenge like a normal scavenger, like older stuff or lightly used items that you can sell on Amazon? Like, is that still fun? And are you still making money off of that?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Anyway, so that's I'm glad we did the experiment.
Yeah.
I had always been like, I don't understand Amazon. And
then we did understand it.
Yeah,
we did it.
We did it. We're sending stuff in. Things sold. So it's not a... And if we ever just found a bunch of stuff that we thought could sell on Amazon, we now know how to do it.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
But experiment done.
Okay, 1 year. It was 1 year total.
Yeah, it was. That's
right. It's exactly like February 1st.
Right, because Vic came about a year ago.
It was February 1st, I remember. Yep.
And taught us.
Oh, wow. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
that changes in a year.
That's kind of the adventure of being a scavenger, is trying brand new things.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about numbers.
Numbers.
This is just where we talk about how much we made. It's this week, just to give people, a sense of what a real store could look like. So, we sold 48 items.
Yes.
For about $1,400.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's a little bit down from last week.
Yeah, but if you think about it, that's hitting our $200 a day.
Yeah, which, sure.
If we can make $200 a day,
we're good.
I'm happy.
Yeah. It's not bad.
Anything more is bonus. Then on our second store, we sold 5 items for about $200.
Not bad.
Which isn't bad. I mean, it's like I said, that store is pretty much on autopilot still.
No, I've been listing stuff on there. You've been giving me stuff to list
that's true.
on there.
Some shoes.
Yep.
But yeah, I think we make about $1,000 a month on that store.
It's not bad.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Like,
just let it ride out.
It's it's like I'll check out that PayPal account after a couple of the months, and I'm like, hey, look,
there's money in there.
Some money like that. I mean, that it's money just paid for our carpenters.
Right. Exactly.
So it's nice.
Yep.
Okay, things we sold. So I do want to mention. So in our main store, out of 48 items, 13 of those items had no one who was watching it.
Yeah.
And I just want to mention that because when we get stuff into our store, I'll look to see, is anyone watching it? Is there any action? And very often we don't have anyone who will watch an item.
But it'll sell.
Yeah, and so I don't stress about it,
Yeah.
We sold a lot of lower dollar items.
Yes.
Some of them, were older. And, sometimes those are the most exciting things.
Oh, because you're like, I never thought this thing would sell.
Yeah, or finally it sold.
Yeah, yeah.
We took some offers on some bigger items that have been taking up storage space, and we're just like, yes.
Yes, sell it, just like I was saying. I'm
get that stuff out.
Should I? No, yes, just sell it, get it out.
But just a couple of, interesting items we sold were...
We sold some vintage... they were actually Air France menus from 1969. So it was super fancy. I don't know if it was first class or if all airplanes were like this in 1969, but it was a 3-course meal. It's probably first class. These French beautiful menus with avant-garde paintings on the front. You're like, what?
It's like that special. It's printing too.
Yeah.
Right? It's like
it was a lithograph. Yeah, it was a lithograph. Yeah. I mean, you're just like, this is crazy. And there was 5 of them, and one was a map showing the route, from Boston to
the route.
The route. I say route because I'm from New England. Boston to Newfoundland to, it showed where the plane went to Paris. And that sold for $125 global shipping to someone in France.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was good. $125 for those.
Yeah.
And we found a stack of these. I forget where. It was a box full of cruise ship menus from the 30s. Just different
planes,
cruise things, planes. Just somebody traveled throughout their lifetime and kept all that stuff. So I kind of lotted it out. A couple weeks ago, we sold a couple menus, cruise ship menus, to someone in Italy that were of an Italian cruise ship. So it's kind of fun to sell it back to where they came from.
I mean, and that's a good example of we're scavengers. We're finding this stuff. I would never want to keep this.
I don't need it. Yeah.
If I wasn't a scavenger, I just burn that in my fireplace. I don't see
what
the
am I gonna
value
do with
in
it. Yeah.
But I know there are people who do, and it's so interesting. I wonder what those persons bought.
What are they going to do?
So interesting.
What's interesting about some of the cruise ship menus and manifestos is they have the list of the passengers printed in a lithograph.
Wow.
So you're like, so somebody, maybe their relative had gone on this cruise and they're looking for their name in the list of names. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to me.
Okay. Customer issues.
Yes.
This wasn't a customer issue. This was a seller issue.
Yes. So I had sold a pair of camo pants, but they were vintage camo. It's like this very specific print. And she wrote to me and she said, you sent me the wrong pants. And I looked at them. I was like, no, those are definitely the pants. But she said the ones I needed had a white band on the inside. And she showed me the picture and she said, this one doesn't have that. And so I ran down.
And so you said, you know what? You need to shut up.
No.
And you need to take what I give you.
No. I would never do that. So what was crazy about it is when I was looking for those pants, I had a hard time finding them. So when I found them...
Because we have like a huge big bin of just camo.
They weren't it wasn't in a bin. It was hanging up with the pants.
Oh, okay.
But the problem is the way that the pants are, they get smushed. So these pants were like smushed like to the back. So you really have to like look at every single... So I thought I found them. I was like, oh great, they're here. And I shipped, because I didn't see any others that looked like that. So I shipped them. And then when she said, this is the wrong one, I went downstairs and I really was like looking at the back of every single, and I found them. And so what we did was we were like, look, we probably paid almost nothing for both pairs of pants. Let's just send her the correct pair and let her keep
on our dime.
Let her keep it, because basically we lost the original shipping, which was they were shipped first class because they're like really like this thin material, so it was like $4. I'm like, fine. Like I said, I'm so sorry. I'm shipping these right now. I'm putting them in an envelope. They're going out first thing in the morning, and I think they got delivered today. And so she was super nice about it. But she realized, she even sent me a link to the listing. She's like, you sent me these ones, but I need, the ones with the whatever. I was like, oh.
Okay.
Anyway.
I got it.
Got it.
So that happens so, I think you've shipped thousands and thousands of items, and it's only happened, I think, 3-4 times?
I think three times. And actually, it wasn't even so much that I sent the wrong item as I switched
boxes,
2 pairs of shoes with, whatever. Right. So, but look, she was super nice. We handled it, we fixed it, and it should be fine.
And I know you talked about this before, but real quick for anyone new, when you have like 10 things to ship in a day, how do you keep all this stuff organized? Are you doing one thing at a time?
I do one thing at a time.
At a time.
And this is what helps me. I look on my eBay app. I go gather everything. Wherever our storage is, we have a list of stuff we need to gather. So if the stuff is here and it's clothes and it's shoes, I can just get it at home. I bring that upstairs to my office. I print out the invoices. I have a stack of invoices. I look at the top one. Okay, it's a pair of women's pumps, Joan and David. Okay, I grab those. I pack them up. I know it's only the Joan and Davids I have to print the label for. That's the only thing that is sitting on my shipping table that needs a label. I walk over to my printer. Joan and David shoes. Boop. Okay, next thing. Like if I have 3 baseball hats, I might do those. But what I do is, okay, this one's going to Texas. This one's going to Colorado. This one's going to Massachusetts. So I know they're each, 5 ounces. So I walk over to the computer, I print all those, I look at, okay, this is Colorado, this is Texas, this is Massachusetts. And I write on with a Sharpie, an orange Sharpie, on the label, Texas, Massachusetts, not on the label, on the poly mailer. Yep. So if I want to do 3 in a row, but to keep myself from shipping the wrong thing or switching labels, I try to do it one by one, because that guarantees there's no mistake.
I promise you right now, we're going to get 5 emails or a message from people who are like, here's how you can cut out 2 steps out of your process.
Right. I like my process because I know for certain that I'm doing the right label.
Yep.
It makes me feel better that I'm like, okay, it's just this one thing.
Okay, my turn. All right.
Go.
This is a customer issue. But
sort of.
It wasn't a problem. It was a problem averted.
Yes. Okay. We averted the problem.
We had a woman last night send in an offer for a set of books. How many books was it?
14 books.
14 books.
It was a volume, 14 volume.
Right. And she gave us a really lowball offer. I countered. She gave me a lowball offer. I declined. I'm just like, I'm not playing this game. She writes back and she says, I want this. I can only afford so much. And I didn't answer her because I'm like, I don't want to,
We were busy. We were doing something.
So she sent another offer, which was much higher. but it was about $50 under what I wanted. I think we had them up for 170.
Yeah.
She offered 100.
Yeah.
And we were thinking about it, and like I said, we kind of need money right now, so we're just like, let's just take off. It. So we sold it. Mm-hmm. And, she paid for the cheapest shipping possible.
It's media mail. It's books. Right. So
she then sends a message, and she's like, great, thanks. I just paid right away. If you could, just bubble wrap each book and then bubble wrap the box. And thanks so much.
Jay didn't even see that message. I messaged you over instant messenger. I was like, did you just see that
I was
message?
like, wait a second. So anyway, what I did was, I was like, lady, you're going to take what we give you.
Okay, now, you and I discussed what we should do.
Right.
You and I discussed what we should do, and what we decided, because we kind of freaked out. Because we were like, oh, wait, because I'm like, I'm not shipping books like that.
Because here's it's quandary. If we ignore her,
right,
and she just gets it regular, she could be all angry, like, I told you to do this.
Right.
If we just tell her straight up, no way, I'm not going to do that for you, then she's going to be all irate and then might...
Cancel the transaction.
Yeah. Well, not even cancel it, but she'll then get it and she'll leave us back. Like, these people are very rude.
Yeah.
So what I did was...
Yes.
I gave her choices.
Yep.
I said, you paid standard media mail, and we'll pack it safely in a box.
Right.
So we can do that. Number 2, if you want us to bubble wrap each piece
14 bucks
in a box, we'll charge you an extra $15 because of the handling cost.
Right.
Or number 3, we could just cancel this if you're unhappy with these choices.
Right.
So that way, we've given her choices, so if she gets the item and she's upset, we can go to eBay and be like, she chose, just, I don't want to pay more, just do it the way
you normally
you're going to do
books,
it.
Yeah.
So I think that covers us, plus we gave her choices.
Right.
So she's not bullied into anything, there's not going to be a surprise, and the way you pack anyway
it's
is
going to
good.
be safe.
Yeah.
I mean, and I made sure, look, I did, now these books aren't huge, they're like 6 by 8 or whatever, like they're smallish books. So I wrapped every 3 in a plastic bag, and then I used whatever, like blank newsprint, and I padded the bottom, and I put them in there, and I padded the side, and I padded the top, so they're not like, shifting around, because this lady's actually in Alaska. So it's like, it's going to travel all the way up to her.
Right.
And maybe she's had stuff damaged before. The other issue was this. We were like, well, let's see if she's left negative feedback for other people for books or whatever. So that'll give us some indication of if we need to, like, handhold this person. She had private feedback. We were like, okay, we're going to give her these 3 choices.
So explain to people why that bothers you, or why it makes you nervous.
Because I'm like, maybe she is just like, like leaving bad feedback for people constantly, and there's no way to see it. Right. So we decided, like you said, to just be like,
and and I try and do that. I think that's a good customer service, practice, is to give people choices.
Right. Sure.
Like,
what do you want to do?
Like if we do something wrong, do you want an immediate partial refund and keep the item, or do you want to mail it back? Let people make the choice.
Exactly.
Anyway. Okay. Enough of that. People are bored. People are so bored. Wake up early. No. Okay. Things we learned in the forum this week.
Yes.
We had some good conversations. One is someone mentioned this idea, which I think is great. Talk to a local experts and craftspeople.
Yes.
So, for instance, we were talking about cordovan,
shell cordovan. That's always the question.
Made of shell cordovan, and shell cordovan, if anyone doesn't know, is horse hide.
Horse
and
butt.
It's specifically on the butt of the horse.
It's this one small section of the...
That there's never any creases, and people are always like, is this shell cordovan? And so...
Yeah.
What's such a good idea is to... And that's what... we did. We went to our local cobbler or shoe repair guy, and we took him some shoes once.
We're like, are these shell cordovan?
These are totally them. And
he's like, where did you find these?
And he helped us explain what to look for.
Yeah.
And we've done that with lots of different people. Jewelry. We've gone to jewelry stores and been like, is this gold?
Is this real?
Not? Yeah. I mean, I've even done that just in auctions. Like, you know, there's always, like, dudes who have been going to auctions forever.
Right.
They always have, like, a specialty. Yeah. And if you can figure out what their specialty is, I just ask them a lot of questions, and they'll tell me what to look for. And I mean, I think ultimately people like to share what they know. If you act... I mean, not only act, but if you are interested.
Yeah. You're not just, like... being whatever.
And I mean, even on those like kind of cheesy TV shows where like the auction people, you know, they'll find something in the auction, and then the next scene is
they go to an expert.
And you know, they're like, but there I think it's so much more aggressive because it's just a TV show. It's like, how much is it worth? Tell me.
I just want to know. That's Storage Wars. That's what
if we don't really like push people, like, tell me how much it's worth, because then you're trying to squeeze free info out of them. But I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is this is kind of related. When we were at the last auction, some woman came up to us who apparently had never been to an auction, and she was like, how do they know if I want to bid on something? Remember that lady? We're like, you put your hand up. Right. Well, how do they see me? I'm like, look at the auctioneer. I mean, we were super nice about it, and she's like, well, how do I know how much it's up to? And we're like, well, you gotta listen to what you gotta listen.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I can totally see how if someone's new and does not know auctions,
they're like, what is going on?
I mean, they kind of, at the beginning of every auction kind of talk about some ground rules, but they just kind of assume people know what's going on. And if you don't know who to look at, do I look at the helpers, the auctioneers? I mean... I don't understand what they're saying.
And there are times when, even at this auction, it's pretty organized and they go in order. You're like, I just bid on that whole table, but I actually only bought half of it, but I thought I was buying the whole thing. Like sometimes the helpers get lazy or misunderstood what they were saying, and you really got to pay attention.
So the other interesting conversation I thought, and I will put links to each of these conversations on the blog, was it's tax time, Yep. I mean...
We're going to our accountant today.
We're going to our accountant in 1.5 hours, and we printed out all of our info, and he calls it a... What does he call it?
An interview?
Yeah, he calls it...
Like an intake interview.
Right, an intake interview. So we're going to go over it all. He'll ask its questions, and then he'll take that, and then he'll actually do our taxes, and then tell us how much we owe. We always owe.
Yep.
So I hope everyone's thinking about doing that.
Yes.
There was a guy we interviewed a year ago.
Mark.
His name's Mark. And he runs like an online tax business, like he's an accountant.
Yeah.
And he'll work with you online to do your taxes. And I was just asking him things like how to do inventory and stuff like that.
Right.
He actually now told me a majority of his clients are now online people that sell online.
Like online sellers?
Yeah. A year ago, Seriously? It was all kind of new to him. I had just wanted to interview him because he was like, a younger guy and, into doing the interview. But now he's like, I only do accounting for online people.
Because so many people need that specialty because...
So there's a link to an interview he just did yesterday.
Oh, cool.
So he seems a lot more like up to date on how people that sell online need to do their taxes.
Yeah.
But I'm not recommending him. I'm just saying he's a nice guy, but he does have a business, and there'll be a link to his site if you're looking for an accountant.
Oh, good.
We have a local guy, so we're good with that. But we almost went with him because I would feel comfortable working with an accountant who is, kind of up to date enough, who was willing to do Skype calls and would do emails,
Right.
I don't need to be right in front of a person if they're willing to give me that kind of access.
Exactly. No, that's awesome. Let's definitely link to that.
Okay, what is our coming week going to be like? Well, one thing we haven't gotten our helper to do yet is shoes.
We haven't done shoes.
So I'm still in charge of shoes, and it's just incredible how many shoes we've been finding.
We find shoes, and you know what? I love finding shoes because I love... This is the whole thing of... I love to be a scavenger who sells that doesn't have to collect stuff or wear any of this stuff. Because I love finding, like, fancy designer shoes.
And wearing them around the house?
No, I don't wear them. That's the beautiful thing. I don't have to wear them, but I can appreciate them and sell them to someone else. Right. That's what I love.
I always love when we find, high heels, and they'll be, at your size, and you'll put these high heels on. It's so weird. Like,
I think high heels are the weirdest shoes. Like,
it's so interesting, and when you see, I guess, ladies on TV or on the street, and they're wearing high heels, and they're like just on the go, and they're just like,
I'm like, how?
I'm just like, that's
how
they make it look so natural. Like, do you have? I guess you have to practice how to wear them.
I don't know. Really, I've never worn shoes like that.
Like, can you imagine if guys were wearing shoes that had like big heels? I
can't. I don't understand it. I think it's the craziest fashion ever. Yeah. But if I found some really high-end designer ones yesterday, I will sell them. I don't want to wear them, but I will sell them.
So I will be doing shoes as well as it's with our guys down at the Edge Renovation. We're almost there, Ryan. I know that you don't believe me, but we're getting there. Like, if we had 100 things to do on our list, we're up to like 87.
Okay, I love that. I love to hear that.
I smell it, but we need to sell some old shoes though.
It's tough.
We're on the edge here.
Yeah.
Okay,
so I will be working on artwork. We have been hoarding artwork from an auction. From auctions, I've been buying artwork.
Like prints, and
there's actually some original paintings. There's some cross-stitch. Plus the drawing and the painting we found just the other day that obviously we're obsessed with. So stuff like that is getting listed. I have a huge box of slides, vintage, like 1950s, 1940s slides. I gotta figure out with her how we're gonna list those.
See, I think that's the thing with those kind of items, why they are death piles, because it's not like a pile of shoes where it's just like, all right, I'll clean them, photograph them, they're off.
Go through them.
With slides, you have to start to make choices. Like, do I sell just the whole thing?
Right.
Do I go through and find individual ones that I think people
sell
want?
Those?
Do I do lots of 10?
Right.
Like, it takes more upfront
that
work.
That was also the issue with like buttons. I was like, how am I going to sell these? And I just had to sit down and decide, like, okay, this individual button is amazing and hard to find. I'm hoping that will go by itself. These, not so much. They're in a lot. And you just kind of group it up.
So you and the helper spent 2 weeks doing that big box of buttons.
It was not 2 weeks. It was like a week.
Okay. You guys spent a week doing a big thing of buttons. And that was something new for us.
Right.
And in that process, you had to do research and learn. If we had another box today, are you just much easier go through?
I think so, yeah.
Price?
I think so. Yep.
Cool.
I even this morning made its own category for buttons. So if I want to do markdowns, or I actually want to put them all on Pinterest, so now I can just open that category and put them all.
Now, let me run something by you. I mean, we still have a lot of stuff for a helper to do.
Yeah.
But, we may get to a point where, we need to have her do something. What if we had her list some stuff on Etsy?
Yeah, like what?
Anything. Like anything we think could sell over there,
I don't know what sells over there.
As an experiment.
Yeah, we could. We totally could. We could. I think I just hate that, like, I have to end it on eBay. I have to, like, manually end it on eBay. I know that's not really a problem.
Oh no!
Shut up. Let's move on.
Okay, let's talk about let's answer these questions people have sent in.
You can call us at 540-407-8486. And you have 3 minutes to leave a message.
Hey, Jay and Ryan, this is Laura in Tennessee. I can't believe I'm giving you a call, but I wanted to comment on your idea for your organization for your new warehouse. I know you were saying you were just going to number your bins, and I don't do that. My niece sells on eBay, and that's what she does. But My question is, what will happen if there's ever a time where you don't write down the correct bin number, and you go to find an item and you're looking at 4,000 items in a bin? I just wondered about that. I guess generally I think in terms of putting hats in one area and then maybe having bins of hats, so at least if you can't find it, you can look through a bin. I don't know. That was one question. And then the other thing was just a comment about the shipping time on your item that you said was supposed to come from the U.S. and came from overseas. I did that also on a DVD. And the same thing happened. I noticed as I purchased it that it said it would be here like 3 months later. But it did arrive just in a couple of weeks. So I don't know why it does that, but it was here quickly. So anyway, I appreciate your podcast, and I listen to it every week and have learned a ton from you guys, and I really appreciate it. So anyway, hope it all works out, and I'll probably cringe when I hear myself talking on your next podcast. Bye.
Okay, yes. So the one issue we have with doing like items, like these are all small metal items, these are all big metal items, is a lot of times you're like, it's a metal item, but it's also a medical supply, but it's also such and such, and you're like, so which bin is it in? You know, you don't have a number, it's in bin number 5. So, and I agree. So, we don't know what's best.
Yeah, I mean, we're a little bit of ways from actually implementing a new system.
We don't have our building yet.
But it's been good. On the forum, people have been talking about the way they do it, the way they would do it if they had enough to have an inventory system, you know, and some people get very detailed, and I love all the ideas and methods, and at some point we'll pick.
And I will say this, like when we do have certain numbers, like I'll do a bunch of like postcards or photographs, and I'll number the bag that they're in, like, oh, these 10 postcards are in, you know, lot 5. And that is so helpful, like to have numbers where I'm like, oh, there's all these postcards. Oh, I know exactly which bag it is. Look through the bag. There it is. You know, it takes me 5 seconds to find something rather than here's a huge, you know, bin of postcards and photos that you just have to look at every single one. So numbering systems help me a lot when looking for stuff that's sold.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a little bit weary of doing this, but I feel like when it gets time where we have a new storage and where we need to do a new inventory, it's almost like I'd love to trade with someone that's done this.
Yeah.
That's like a numbering expert.
Right.
Like we'll give them a week in our rental.
Right.
In this beautiful farmhouse.
If they help us
by the national park. If they give us like a day or two and can like get us started and like work it all out for us, and then, you know.
Yeah.
I like doing trades like that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So we'll see.
Hey, Jay and Ryan. This is Brian from Illinois. In your last podcast, you talked about buying a very large rug, and I was just curious how you photographed that. That sounds like it would be a challenge to get a good photograph of that since it's so large. Thank you.
Okay. Luckily for us, we have a huge back deck. We did not build that back deck. It was here when we bought the house. It's massive. So even if it's cold outside, we just put that big old whatever, it was like 8x12 rug out there and take a photo. I mean, it doesn't look great to be on the back deck like, hey, this is outside, but we're not storing it outside, but that's how we do it, basically.
Are you standing on a chair? Or
no, I just stand back and like try to bring the camera or the phone or whatever we're using up. And then you do close-ups, do close-ups of details and show the knotting on the back, show anywhere.
Yeah, because we really don't have a house big enough.
I know.
We don't have a room big enough to even put an 8x12 rug in.
Yeah, so that's how we do it. Yeah. I don't know how other people do it. I'd love to hear, if you don't have a big back deck, where do you show a big 8x12 rug?
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Roy calling from Pennsylvania. I had heard on your last podcast about the lovely Gallery Plus eBay site error, where it's just keeping $1 per listing. I just called. Obviously, this is blowing up and been a known issue for some time. The only workaround they have, I was told at the moment, is if you call, they can switch your site preference to the old way that you used to list. I guess they updated the sell form, but they can switch you back, which I didn't opt for. They did say that you can, you have to call them. They note your account, and in the event you do get charged these dollar per listings, it's very easy to miss that, obviously. You'd have to call back and then they will remove them, but it is one of the biggest issues that they're working on. So there is a workaround, not a great one at the moment, but to your point in the last podcast, Ryan, I do think they are, they're working on the code there, so hopefully they'll get that taken care of. I have probably half a dozen listings, not a lot, but a few that are just kind of frozen as I cannot relist. Even if you save as a draft, it will still, the bug remains. So anywho, thought I'd pass that along. Have a great day.
Yeah, so actually I forgot to mention that earlier. Yes, they had to, in order to get those fees to disappear on the listing, they had to put me back in the old listing, without the seller hub and without the new listing form. And we had to uncheck the box. So I had to uncheck the box on all of them. And then I had to switch it back, make sure everything looked new again. And then I had to have her credit. It was just so much work.
I think this is one thing that eBay they would gain so much attention and a love if they did this. If they just told you known problems.
Yeah.
There was a page. I know that sometimes they have pages where they announce problems, but if they just had a simple, up-to-date, modern page where it was from the engineering team and they said, we're aware that there's a problem with Gallery Plus.
They would save so many phone calls.
We're working on it.
Right.
We don't have a deadline, but we just know it's a problem.
Right.
I mean, right now it's just it's almost like eBay is this black box,
It's just frozen, yeah.
And we're in a village, and we're looking up at the mountain with the black box, and we're just what's the problem?
Yeah.
And some people have, they had these conspiracy theories, and they're doing sacrifices, thinking they can change the weather.
Their ending and selling is similar. Yeah, exactly.
But really, the people in the black box are just regular people too, and they're in little space suits, and they're people too, but we can't really talk to them.
Space suits. Yep. Okay, we're taking the next call because this is beyond bizarre.
Hi Jay, hi Ryan. My name's Dave. I've called you before. I live in the Detroit area in Michigan, and I'm just listening to your most recent podcast and heard you talking about the Gallery Plus options being automatically checked, and I've been running into that, and it's been driving me crazy. Sometimes there'll be multiple boxes checked, and it can be as much as $2.15 to list the item. And what I found I have to do is uncheck, if it's double boxes, I have to uncheck one box at a time, uncheck a box, and it still shows that I owe that, so I have to save it as a draft, go back in it, open it, uncheck the second box, save it as a draft again, and then go back in and make sure that the item amount is 0 to list it before I list it. And it was driving me crazy, and I accidentally listed a couple like that because I'd unchecked them, but, and the other thing I was calling about was to thank you guys for everything that you do. Since I've started selling on eBay and listening to you, it's been about 3 years now, we've changed the way we think. I was joking with my wife. I turned 47 last Wednesday, and I said when I grow up I want to be like Jay and Ryan, and we've paid off $35,000 in credit card debt, our car, and RV that we had that we weren't willing to give up because we live in it in the summertime with the kids. But I'm a father of 4 kids, so I get maybe 30 hours a week to myself, and I make more selling on eBay than I ever did working a real job. And it doesn't hurt that my wife is an elementary school principal and has excellent pay and benefits. So I really appreciate everything you do. The highlight of my week, listening to the podcast, and I listen to Shampoo and Booze too. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.
That's awesome. I love hearing stuff like that. But yeah, I agree. In Gallery Plus, sometimes it would be over $2.
Yeah, $2.10.
I'm just I still don't understand what feature would be so valuable.
I'd be willing to spend $2 a listing. Oh my god,
that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on paying off $35,000 in credit card debt.
That's a big one.
It's incredible.
That's
good for
huge.
you.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Lynn from Central Pennsylvania, outside Harrisburg. I was calling for a money-saving tip. If you happen to live near an orchard or know of an orchard that sells fruit to the public, ask for seconds or wildlife apples. I just happened to pick up 3 bushels of apples for $6 a piece to make applesauce, and there's nothing wrong with the apples. I'm actually pulling some out to eat plain instead of making sauce. Always ask. You can get peaches in season 2 half price if you ask for seconds. Thanks. Bye.
That's a great idea.
It is a great idea.
There is actually an orchard on the other side of the mountain where we are.
Yep.
Yeah, I wonder if that's possible. Something else, when we first moved to this area, we actually met a young couple that had started a small farm. They were doing a
CSA.
A CSA, where people would pay them and they would get like bundles. And so we would actually help them pick vegetables, and
they would give us the seconds.
Yep. And then they would allow us to go through after we had picked all the good tomatoes or whatever. We could go through and basically glean.
Get the seconds, it's just called gleaners.
Gleaners, and we would bring home big buckets full of tomatoes.
Basil.
And, they were all beat up, but we would make
just sauce out of them,
sauce.
We didn't care what they looked like.
Unfortunately, they got out of the farming business.
Well, they still do a little bit of farming, but not as much as they did before.
But that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Gleaners. Unfortunately, most, our county is a big farming county.
Right.
But it's not like Farmer Brown.
Well, it's industrial farming.
It's like industrial farming. It's like, one
cattle
guy
for beef.
has like 1,000, square acres of soybeans.
Right. It's soy, it's corn, and the corn is feed corn for cattle. Right. Like, that's what it is.
So it's unfortunate. Like, there's not a lot of real food grown here.
Yeah.
Hi, Jay. Hi, Ryan. This is Mark. I have a question about FedEx Smart Post. I know you guys use it a lot and let the mailman pick it up off your porch. I recently have had some health issues and having problems with my heart and cannot drive right now. I have the mailman pick up my packages from the porch, and I've recently started letting him have the FedEx Smart Post, which I used to take to FedEx. And I was wondering if you have an idea how long on average it takes for those to arrive to the buyer. I know it's fine to let the postman pick them up, but I think FedEx then has to pick them up from the postman, and then they have to go, to where they're going, and then they dropped off at the next post office. So I thought it might add a couple days, and that is the only thing that concerns me. So I was just basically curious if you've tracked some of your Smart Post items and they arrive within a week, which would be fine for me, but I was just checking. Thank you very much. Bye.
Okay, I'm going to let you answer because I don't ship. But I will say, I read on the forum, there are people who feel very strongly that FedEx Smart Post is the worst. They're like, we hate it. It takes too long. No one protects you.
Right.
Go.
Okay, so one thing I do want to mention about FedEx Smart Post that some people have asked on the forum is, if they sell something on Etsy or sell something on Bonanza, how do they ship FedEx Smart Post? You can't. FedEx Smart Post is like a specialized thing for, at first I thought just for eBay, but I think maybe other places like stamps.com, you might be able to do FedEx Smart Post through them, but it's like a commercial, like base commercial service that like you can't do through just FedEx. Like you have to have like a big corporate commercial account, which eBay does. So anyway, yes, supposedly you're supposed to bring your FedEx Smart Post to FedEx, and then the last mile is taken care of by the post office. However, some post offices, like mine, don't care. They're going to scan the USPS barcode from the get-go. And yes, I track every single package. Like every morning and every night before I go to bed, I'm looking at all my tracking because I'm a nerd like that. I want to see if something's delayed. I want to see how fast something got to someone. And look, FedEx Smart Post is basically parcel post. So it's ground. It's slower. However, sometimes I see, stuff get to someone as fast as priority. Sometimes I see it take a week. It depends on what part of the country it is, and it depends on what the people at my, sorting facility in, Richmond or wherever decided to throw it in what bin. Because I've seen it take, 10 days to get to someone, and I've seen it take 2 days to get to someone, far away. It just depends on what they feel like doing. Sometimes they'll throw it in with priority, it seems. Sometimes they don't.
So here's a problem that people say about a FedEx Smart Post. If the item's lost or broken,
right,
who is it that you go to? The post office or FedEx?
So the problem is, since it's parcel, it's not insured under USPS. They're not going to cover a parcel, a ground payment. As far as FedEx, the thing for me is I treat it like parcel or first class. If I need to insure it, I use ShipSaver. I'm not even going to go through USPS or FedEx. I insure it through ShipSaver, and they'll insure that package. So I don't know the answer. Other people have talked about doing claims through FedEx, but the problem is you have to do it through eBay. There's like a special, and then FedEx is going to deny you.
Right.
They're just going to.
Right.
Unless they said they damaged it, which they won't. So do ShipSaver. It's a third-party app through eBay. You just sign up for it. Google it. I don't know the direct link, but I pay them, and that's what I use. Okay, that's it for the podcast. You can check out our blog at scavengerlife.com for the links we discuss and to join the conversation on the forums. You can call and leave a question or a comment on something you heard. The phone number is 540-407-8486. We post an episode every Monday morning. On Wednesday, we post a What Sells video that shows what sold on eBay by Steve Schultz and how much he sold it for. You can subscribe to us through iTunes or YouTube so you always get the latest episode. You can listen to our other podcast where we talk about our vacation rental business and our renovation that's currently happening. And that's at shampooandbooze.com. We are ending this podcast in 3, 2, 1.